All right, everybody. It's Monday morning here. Hopefully you are all being good for Miss Dockery. Remember, if I get back and you guys aren't being good, oh man, will it be terrible. So right now we're talking about the age of absolutism, where we know it's how do monarchs gain complete and total power. Monarchs who succeed in having a secure financial base are good. They can rule absolutely. But if you're tied to parliament or a legislature, you are going to struggle. And since we just talked about the Columbian Exchange and the transatlantic economy being fueled by the gold and the silver from the Aztecs and the Incas is Spain. That's going to bring us to the reign of the mighty Habsburg dynasty. Habsburgs were some of the richest people in the world of all time. And it is at this time that the country of Spain will reach its golden age. Spain has gone out, conquered and controlled vast territories from Mexico down through South America. That's part of it. But it also has an empire that stretches around the world. In Europe, the Habsburgs control Portugal, to the island of Sicily, to the city of Naples in Italy, the big port. Over in the New World, they rule from Mexico to Peru, and they have even reached the Philippines. Also in Europe, they control the Holy Roman Empire. All right? What is today Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, all of this belongs to the Habsburgs. Also, there's going to be a branch of the family that controls the Austrian, Hungarian or Austrian Habsburg Empire. So the Habsburgs are flat out loaded. And the Emperor Charles V, this guy is crazy rich. He's going to take over from Ferdinand and Isabella. He's going to rule from 1500 to 1558. He is the guy that has the gold and the silver pour in from the Aztecs and Incas. He controls the Habsburg Empire at its greatest size. It was literally the biggest empire in Europe. The last time a guy had an empire as big as him was Charlemagne. And Charles V and his part of the dynasty will acquire land through his grandparents. It's nice to have one set of rich grandparents, but Charles was fortunate enough to have two sets of rich grandparents. And by rich, I mean it's just incredible. On one side, he's got the great Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain. From them, he gets the empire in the Americas. From his other set of grandparents, he gains Austria, the Netherlands, and the Holy Roman Empire. So my boy is crazy beyond crazy rich. Now, because his empire is so big, Charles V actually struggles. He finds it very difficult to govern this empire. So much diversity. It's just a strain on him. And his absolutism is affected by Martin Luther with the Protestant Reformation. Now, Charles V is a devout Catholic. His best friend is the Pope. So he's got to deal with the Protestant Reformation. He's got to deal with the Peace of Augsburg, which allows the German princes to determine whatever religion they want to follow. But in Spain, Charles V is a rock star. His Spanish subjects revere him. They love him. And even more importantly, they respect him. And he spends Spain's almost inexhaustible, incredible supply of riches fighting many wars. He wants to fight his Catholic rivals, the French. And he also is fighting the Turks and the spreading of the Ottoman Empire and Islam. So by the mid-1550s, 1556, Charles finds himself, he's tired, all right? And he decides that he's going to step down. He's just exhausted. He's spent. So he does something that people can't possibly fathom. He's in charge of this big empire. He's crazy rich. And he decides to divide it and give part of it to his brother and the other part of it to his son. Charles feels that an empire this big is too big for one person to govern. He tries to be hands-on. He tries to manage everything, and it's just way too much for him. So he gives the Austrian part of his empire to his brother. Brother, here you go, bro. Take this. Gives that to his brother Ferdinand. To his son, all right, he gives the largest part of the empire. His son is named Philip II. And Philip gets the Holy Roman Empire, the Empire of the Americas, Mexico down through Peru, the Netherlands, and the Italian port of Naples. So Philip gets all the good stuff. So Charles taps out, goes and lives as a recluse, and Philip II of Spain takes over. So here is the Habsburg Empire in you. We got Spain, Portugal, Sicily, Sardinia, the state of Naples, all right, Belgium, the Netherlands, Holy Roman Empire over it here, and here is Austria. He's got all this. So his brother gets this stuff while his son gets everything else and the Americas. And so there was a golden age under King Charles V. He patronized the arts. He created schools and universities and churches. But it's his son that brings Spain into its second golden age. Under King Philip II, Spain is going to experience its second golden age. It will last about 30, 40 years from 1556 all the way to 1598, where Spain literally becomes the most powerful country in Europe. Its military and its economy are by far and away stronger than everybody else's. And again, this is all due to the economy. Wealth is coming back from all over the empire. Spanish fleets bring back the gold and the silver from Mexico and Peru. With this wealth, the Spanish army is large. It is well equipped. It is modern. The Spanish Navy builds the great Armada, like the Black Pearls. And so with it, large missionary movements are also funded. Priests and missionaries will not only fan out across Europe trying to fight the growing Protestant movement and Calvinism and everything else, but also in the Americas. Philip, like his father Charles, was a devout Catholic, and he was determined to spread Catholicism. A deeply passionate Catholic. So Philip is going to send out these missionaries. He wanted to get rid of heretics. He wanted to get rid of non-believers, and he is going to spread Catholicism. And the problem is, this gets himself into many wars. This will draw him into many conflicts. But Philip was also devoted to running the empire, something that is a fixture or a commonality among all absolute monarchs. If you want to be dominant, you've got to be hands-on. You've got to know what is going on everywhere, and power has to go through you. You have to make these decisions. So what he does, as he's trying to get rid of heretics, he's going to restore the Roman Catholic Church, He's going to send out missionaries across Europe. He's going to stamp out non-believers, and this is going to get him into a fight at first in the, whoa, come on here, little clicker. At first, it's going to rear its ugly head in the Netherlands. Now, later on, we're going to talk about King Louis XIV of France. L'État c'est moi, I am the state. At this time, Philip is even more wealthy than Louis XIV. And it was Philip's efforts to completely centralize and dominate Spain, to make it dominant, that will get him into problems up in the Netherlands with the Dutch. The Dutch are part of his empire. And what goes unnoticed, almost, is the power the Dutch had. Amsterdam was a great, vibrant city of trading. And they were also powerful economically because of the Dutch trading fleets, like the East India Company we talked about. But the people of the Netherlands did not like that Philip, when it came time to make a decision, always chose Spain before them. And he's like, well, yeah, the Netherlands is cold and it's dark and it's rainy. While down here in Spain, in Sevilla and Cadiz and Toledo, is beautiful, it's sunshiny, it's Mediterranean. Why would I want to go there and get pasty just to, check some stuff out? Ooh, Amsterdam, way overrated. I'm staying here. And so the people didn't like this. Even though they were part of his empire, Philip never went up there. And it was religious differences that's going to cause a big revolt. Part of 7 small Dutch provinces want to pull away. They, these 7 northern provinces, want to be Protestant, and they are going to want to separate from the rule of Spain. And so Philip is about to learn the hard lessons, the lessons his dad had learned and warned him about. Right? This is the difficulty with ruling a large, diverse empire. When these 7 provinces declare their independence from Spain, Philip sends in the Spanish army and says, guys, whatever you do, don't shoot anybody. We're going to what you guys call the Flex It Friday. We want to show our muscle, but don't kill any civilians. And whether they got drunk and rowdy, or someone insulted them, or someone corked a wine bottle and they thought it was a gunshot, we don't, the Spanish army winds up killing 18,000 Dutch people running around in their wooden shoes or ice skates, windmills, tulips. They get killed. Now this angers the Protestants of the Netherlands, but it also scares a close neighbor and trading partner, England, just across the North Sea. The Netherlands was a growing trading powerhouse, and they worked with the British, who were right next door. And in England at the time, we have good Queen Bess, Queen Elizabeth I. And Elizabeth is a tough lady, all right? She inherits the job from her dad, King Henry. She's a woman, and she has to show right away that she's hardcore to back these nobles down in England. And she was concerned about the Spanish attacks. If Spain puts boots on the ground in England, because their army is so big and so powerful, it's a good bet that the Spanish are going to win. But she cannot support an attack on the Netherlands because she is a Protestant. All right? Her dad created the Church of England, the Anglican Church. She's terrified that once Spain finishes with the Netherlands, she's next up. Philip was outspoken in that he was going to get rid of Protestantism one way or the other. So therefore, the Queen kind of unofficially allowed her sea captains to go out and wage war on Spanish vessels, capture the Spanish vessel, take their money, and their ship. They're treasure laden, they're rich. And nobody was better at this than the British sea captain Francis Drake. He was a mastermind at capturing Spanish vessels. His ships were always smaller, and he would act like he was in distress, or he would fly a Spanish flag, or he'd stalk them and zip up on the stern where they didn't have any guns. And he was so audacious, he captures galleon after galleon. And the Spanish hate him. Philip II is going to send a letter. Look, Queen, you need to call your boy Drake off. You need to stop him from attacking my ships. And the Queen is like, oh my, spit spot, cheerio, shepherd's pie and cricket bats, teaspoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. I am very cross. I'm going to tell you I'm very cross at this King Philip. I will have him stop this nonsense, these shenanigans. I'm very cross, I say. And Philip's like, all right, sister knows what she's doing. She is going to take care of this. Well, we're waiting for Drake to be punished, and Sir Francis Drake comes back. And the Queen says, Drake, get your butt in here. And with all the Spanish courtiers watching, not only does Queen Elizabeth not punish him, but she knights him. She makes him a knight of the crown and says, go get the Spanish. This is a final insult to the power of King Philip. Remember, he's the most powerful, rich guy in all of Europe. The Queen is rolling the dice. If Spanish boots hit the ground, it's on. And the other thing the Spanish had, even bigger than the British at the time, was their mighty Armada. The big black pearl-like galleons. Huge ships, 30 guns sticking out of each side. Just mighty symbols of Spanish power. And in 1588, Francis Drake is going to be told, I've knighted you, it's time to see how good you really are. Philip will send 68 enormous ships, the pride and joy, the backbone of Spanish power, to handle business. On board are 60,000 Spanish soldiers. They're going to go up and put down the unrest in the Netherlands, and then they're coming for England. And they sail up the Atlantic, and they curve into the English Channel to put down this rebellion. When the unthinkable happens, it was a combination bad weather and just bad decisions. The English Channel being compressed between England and continental Europe, where the North Atlantic current and the North Sea current are compressed, it's always wavy. If you've ever been on it, normally when I take students, the last one to throw up, I usually buy them like dinner or like dessert. Because it's always wavy. Well, a storm blows up, and the boats are rocking and rolling, and off the port of Calais, France, about 19 miles from Dover, England, these Spanish galleons throw out their anchors, one off the bow, two off the stern to stabilize the ship in this giant storm. And then the admiral says, let's throw lines and let's tie all the big ships together to give us extra support. Over in England, Queen Elizabeth dons her armor and she rides out trying to inspire her men, knowing if the Spanish show up, man, we're in bad shape in this storm. But she unleashes Sir Francis Drake. And Sir Francis Drake is on a smaller, more agile, more nimble ship. Think of the Greeks at Salamis under Themistocles versus the Persian ships. They're smaller and they're more nimble. Also, the English understand the nuances of sailing in the stormy, treacherous English Channel. Now, if you look over here, the galleons could only fire their cannons at you broadside. It means from the side. They couldn't fire from the front and fire from the back. Well, where Sir Francis Drake had a bow gun. And they begin to attack the ships on the edge. And when the English come out of the Thames, across the English Channel, in the storm, they're ordered to cut their anchors and to cut the ropes. And this causes destabilization. The big Spanish galleons are widely scattered. As a mighty compact force, like the flotilla system, they would be tough to beat. But when they're scattered in small groups, they're easy prey for the English sailors. And much of the Spanish Armada is destroyed. The survivors have to sail all the way up around Scotland and Ireland to return home, but many of the ships are lost. Not only is the Netherlands saved, but England is safe from invasion. And this gives England bump, 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 a feeling of invincibility on the seas, all right? No one can defeat us. We just took down the mightiest navy on the planet. And it's so expensive to rebuild the Armada that it doesn't happen. Also, Spain had always spent money just assuming the gold and silver from Mexico and Peru would keep coming, but all of a sudden, the gold and silver runs dry, and the Spanish are broke, or getting broke. While all this is happening, Charles V and Philip II, we have nearly 100 years of cultural flowering. Despite his setbacks against England, Philip II, as a leader, really wants to further Spanish culture and art. And again, he's a hands-on monarch. He wants this to happen. It's going to. So Philip's reign is known as the Century of Gold. Great masterpieces of art and literature are created. Miguel Cervantes will write his famous novel about Don Quixote we learned about in the Renaissance unit. All right, we're furthering culture. All these great and wonderful things happen. Palaces are built, churches are built. But even with the Century of Gold, the Spanish began to encounter severe economic problems. As Philip's reign keeps going and eventually ends, Spain will lose its position of power in Europe. However, Spain, while they'll lose their territory in Europe, they will hang on to their empire in the Americas. The Spanish had grown, as I said, accustomed to what they felt was an endless supply of gold and silver coming over from the Americas. So they spent money constantly in expectation of the treasury getting renewed. Soon, however, the Americas are going to run out of riches. And the royal treasury is now empty. The coffers are dry. Spain cannot pay for the many wars which they are involved. Philip II is fighting just about everybody. And Spain also begins to have problems governing its territories in the New World. It gets so bad that Philip II and some of his descendants have to borrow money from the bankers of Germany and Italy. How do the Habsburgs have to borrow money? They're not only rich, they're like stupid rich. So how in God's name do they have to borrow money from everybody? They've got to borrow it from money lenders. Something that is almost unconscionable. This just simply can't happen to us. So when the treasure ships make it back to Spain, before the king gets the money, he's got to send it right to the people he borrowed it from. He's got to put it in the hands of the bankers. As a result, Spanish goods, their price skyrockets. There's massive inflation inside of Spain. It's cheaper to buy a foreign product, an imported product from England or France, than it is a Spanish one. And so this great economy where there was a saying, there's a chicken in every pot, everybody's got a house, everybody's got food. Philip II is on the job running the empire, spreading Catholicism. Well, when his reign ended in 1660, within 100 years, the amount of troubles inside of Spain are too much for the Habsburg monarchs to deal with. This mighty, vibrant, powerful empire slowly begins to fall apart and collapse. Religious persecution, with the Inquisition and the upkeep of that, caused many people to flee the country. When these people fled, they took their money with them. Agricultural and industrial production falls off. All right? The farms aren't doing well. Nobody can afford to buy anything Spanish, so the factories close. And rivalries begin inside of Spain, where different regions, north and south and east and west, have to consolidate their resources, and they look after their own region first, rather than understanding their role in the empire as a whole. Remember, Philip II, Charles V, dominant hands-on monarchs. They have the power and the vision to keep everybody united. But once they're gone, like leaders we've talked about again and again and again, their descendants don't match their vision or their power, and the empire collapses. So the Spanish Habsburgs, once the most richest and powerful monarchy in Europe, will fall to a second-rate or second-tier power. They're simply no longer able to dominate or determine events on the continent. A huge blow to what they are doing. However, the other half of the family in Austria and the Holy Roman Empire, they will continue to play a large role in world affairs up and through World War I. Spanish absolutism will never again be as powerful as they were under Charles V or Charles II. With the money they had, it's like those people who, how the lottery ruined my life. Well, the only reason that happens is because you're stupid. Let me win the lottery. I'll show you how to do it. They squandered their money. They wasted it instead of consolidating it and keeping their eye on the ball and taking care of their empire. They blow a lot of it, and as a result, they collapse. I'll do absolutism in Russia when I get back. What we're going to do now is something a little bit more fun. A lot of these pictures, all kinds of stories. We are going to talk about absolutism in France. I've got all kinds. I'll give you about another 8-10 minutes of this, and I'll finish it up a little bit later. In France, all right, we've got France and the French and Indian War and all of that going on. Well, we just talked about the Stuart dynasty, and where the Stuarts fail in achieving their absolutism, the French will succeed beyond anybody's wildest dreams, beyond everybody's imagination. The French monarchs will be some of the most dominant, if not the most dominant of all time, even more so than Charles and Philip. Nobody in all of Europe was as good at running an absolute monarchy as King Louis XIV, the Sun King. Right? And before this, we will see these two guys. One is named Chief Minister Mazarin and Cardinal Richelieu. Now, Cardinal Richelieu is the villain in many of my favorite novels. I was a big fan of the Three Musketeers, Athos, Porthos, Aramis, and later D'Artagnan. Well, Cardinal Richelieu was always the bad guy. And Richelieu is a bad guy because he was born poor. He was a peasant. But he rises to be the most powerful Catholic in France. Where virtually everybody, even today, they're like 90% Catholic. So he is, the next level before him is the Pope. And while Richelieu knows he cannot be king, the next best thing is to being number 2. And the more the king's power increases, the more power Richelieu has. So he's always the bad guy. Chief Minister Mazarin is the same. All right? The more power the King of France gets, the more power Mazarin gets as his chief of staff. And so they are advisors to Louis the 14th's father, Louis the 13th. And their heavy-handedness, the way they treat the nobles, will set off rebellions against the French nobles. Remember, towns and townships have long come and gone. We are now in this international trading economy. We're seeking out colonies across the world. So the nobles are declining in power. And Mazarin and Richelieu don't want any rivals for the king's ear, so they want them eliminated. So there's violence, there's intrigue, there's assassination in court, there's murder. Louis's life is actually in jeopardy several times. And so he's absolutely terrified. And as a young man, a small boy, when he's not very old when he becomes king, Louis realizes that policies such as these would endanger his monarchy. If Louis was going to succeed, and he was going to be absolute, he was going to have to find a way to gain unprecedented absolute authority. But by doing it by sheer force and violence, which is what these two wanted, isn't going to make that happen. Louis is going to be more subtle, more Machiavellian about what he is trying to do. Louis XIV is going to achieve absolutism. He is going to achieve a level of monarchy that few people can understand. He will make the king the most powerful institution in all of France. Everything revolved around him. You were tied to him. If anything happened to him, the dominoes would fall and all of France was in peril. You had to keep Louis around. So instead of destroying the nobles outright physically, Louis was going to work with them and through them. And what he did was he would allow them to keep their social standing and their political influence at the local level in their small remote areas, in your little provinces. Louis and all these absolutists are going to focus on large problems. I've got to run the entire country. If the stoplight at the corner of High School and Homestead Road is out, that's not my problem, that's a local problem. So he needs you to handle your towns or your little feudal domains. And if your people think you're a rock star there, well then that's just fine. So what Louis would do is he would leave the palace and he would get dressed up and he would go out amongst the people and he would ride through the town and villages doing the parade wave, and he would come out and, here's Connor sitting here, and he would get out and he would shake hands with Connor. Hey everybody, what's going on? Photo op, want to get a selfie. And the people are like, oh my God, Connor, our feudal lord, is so powerful. The king left Paris to come out here and see us. The King of France is going to come and see us. And Connor looks real good in front of the home crowd. And then we get inside his chateau, his castle, and I say, Connor, this is what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. You can either do it this way, or by this time tomorrow, I will have you replaced. What say you, Connor? Connor's going to say, oh yeah, sure, whatever. Fromage and jambone, all right, croque monsieur. And then we leave, I smile again, I shake Connor's hand, and as people think Connor is a rock star, in reality, he's doing exactly what I want him to do. And so when he's 22, 23 years old, people are shocked when Louis XIII takes complete control of the French monarchy. Oops, I kind of got a little bit carried away here. He comes to the throne as a small boy. And when he's in his 20s, Chief Mazarin is going to die. Everybody is expecting Louis to appoint another chief minister, but he says, no, I'm going to do this all by myself. I am the one in charge. I am going to control things. And Louis is going to run things through 3 small councils so he can remain hands-on. And the idea behind this, I'll say this several times. I remember years ago reading a report that President Clinton met with 52 people during the day. By lunchtime, he met with a ridiculous amount of people. And the man only slept like 3-4 hours a day. All the presidents do this. And so you're constantly having people funneling information. Well, it's hard to keep track of 52 people every single day. What you want to do is have a small, manageable group of people. So all these absolutists will have 3 to 5 ministries, 3 to 5 department heads or chief secretaries. I can't spend hours a day with 52 people, but I can spend hours a day with 3 to 5. That way, they tell me everything I need as Secretary of Defense, Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of State. I will know what's going on. I will tell them what I want done, and their staffs carry it out. So Louis' 3 councils are foreign affairs. Who are we allies with and who are we going to war with? The military, how strong are we? And domestic policy. What the fromage and jambone or crepe is going on here inside of France. I can spend hours with them each day and I will know what is going on. All right, this is probably about 40, 42 minutes. Hopefully it's taken you guys a couple days, a couple minutes to get settled. If not, just sit quietly, talk to each other about your thesis statements and your DBQs. Tomorrow we will pick up and finish France, and we may go on into Mother Russia by the time I'm done. Be good for Ms. Dockery, and I will see you guys on Wednesday. Oh man, that's only 38 minutes. Oh well, you guys will get a few minutes break.